Namo Sakamuni, Namo Sakamuni Buddha, Namo Sakamuni Buddha, Namo Sakamuni Buddha.
Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, go ahead, Thăng Thiền. Can you read, please?
Yeah, more for time. The Buddha made this announcement to the monks once in the distant past, an immeasurable, boundless, inconceivable Asamkhya number of kalpas ago. There was at that time a Buddha named Great Universal Wisdom, excellent, thus come one, worthy of offering, worthy of light, and a universal knowledge, perfect clarity in conduct, well gone, understanding the word, excel, worthy trainer of people, teacher of heavenly and human beings. The Buddha was honor one. His name was named well constituted, and his kappa was named Great Form. Um, Now, monks, since that Buddha passed into extinction, a very great, a very long time had passed. Suppose, for example, that someone took all the earth particles and 1,000,000,000 fold wood and ground the up to make ink powder. And as he passed through the 1,000 lands of the east, he dropped 1 grain of ink powder to bigger than size of a speck of dust. Again, when he passed through another 1,000 lands, he dropped another grain of ink. Suppose he went on in this way until he finished dropping all the ink, grains of ink made from the earth particles. Now, what is your opinion? What do you think that with regard to those lands, the master of calculation or the disciple of the calculation would be able to determine the land that had been visited in the process, or would it not? So this is what the Buddha was trying to make an announcement to the monks, that he mentioned that this Buddha from a long kalpas ago, that this Buddha name is Great Universal Wisdom, Excellent, thus come one. His Buddha land was named Well Constituted, and his kalpa was named Great Form. So since this Buddha passed into extinction a very long time ago, so he said that someone, suppose someone took all the earth particle in a 1,000,000,000 fold and ground up to the ink powder. What he do is he went from many lands from the east, and he dropped 1 grain of ink powder that is no bigger than a speck of dust. Um, so so he has to go through another 1,000 lands. He drop another grain of ink, and he keep doing that until he drop all the earth particles. So what he's saying that there are many thousands in lands, and the number is cannot be calculated. Um, it is impossible to calculate the number of lands. So this is what I understand Thai more factor.
Thank you. Yeah. Uh, John, can you read, please?
See. Now, monks suppose that one should take the earth of all the lands this man had passed through. Would he drop a grain of ink there or not, and should pound it into dust, and suppose that one particle of dust should represent one kalpa. The kalpas had elapsed since that Buddha entered extinctions would still exceed the number of dust particles by measurable, boundless hundreds, thousands, 10,000 millions of Asangya kalpas. But because I employ the Tuscan one's power to know and see, when I look at that far off time, it seems like today. At that time, world honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse, saying,
Yeah, can you summarize what's about?
hmm?
Can you summarize this one, please?
So let's see, based on what I got. Oh, it's all right. So one thing they said about this. So it says about like the grain of ink, like if for to be pound to dust, like that one particle of dust would represent one kalpa, and the kalpa the kalpa has been said that be elapsed since like the Buddha entered like extinction. Jeez.
Mm. Mm. All right. Thank you. Next, Hong Nguyen, please. Yeah, you forgot to turn on the mic, please. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, sorry for that. So I start again.
Yeah, please.
When I think of it, in the past, immeasurable, boundless kalpas ago, there was a Buddha, most honest of two legs beings, named Great Universal Wisdom Excellence. If a person should use his strength to smash the ground of the thousands millions fold world, should completely crush its earth particles and reduce them all to powdered things. And if when he passed through 1,000 lands, he should drop one speck of ink, and if he continued in his manner until he had exhausted all the specks of ink, and if one then took the soil of the lands he had passed through, both though he dropped a speck in and though he did not, and once more ground their earth into dust, and then took once again of dust to represent one copper, the number of tiny grains of dust should be less than the number of coppers in the past when that Buddha lived. Since that Buddha passed into extinction, an immeasurable number of coppers suggest this have passed. The Tuscan one through this unhindered wisdom know the time when that the Buddha passed into extinction and his voice here and Bodhisattva as though he were witnessing that extinction right now. You monks should understand that the Buddha wisdom is pure, subtle, wonderful, without outflow, without hindrance, reaching to and penetrate, penetrating immeasurable causes. Um, so that in this part, I think the Lotus Sutra show teach us how powerful and how long the life of the Buddha in the immeasurable number of kalpas, um, and also uh, the wisdom of the Buddha is pure, subtle, wonderful, without outflow and without hindrance, reaching to all the penetrating immeasurable kappas. Uh, so the lifetime of the Buddha and his wisdom is always um, continuously through the time. Uh, yeah, this is what I understand from this today.
You remember how we calculate a kapas in Buddhism?
Uh, it was more than 180,000 years. I wrote down some.
Mm. Mm. Ấn Thiền, can you remember how we calculate one kapas in Buddhism?
Um, yeah, I don't remember Thai. Yeah, most of Thai.
Mm. So from 10 years, so basically we go up and down. If we go down, there's the minimum is 10-year old. So let's say now the average of our human lifespan is about 100. So each 100 year, we subtract 1 year. Okay, so that's what we call the reason compass. And 100 years, let's say 99 years, so we subtract one, and so, until it go down to 10. And from 10 year it go up again, go up this that we call enriching compass. So one compass is one derision and one enriching. That's one circle of compass. Okay, let me let me show this. I don't know whether I show you this one here or not. Let me show you this one here, and you can see how incredible Buddha wisdom is. Did you watch this one? Did you watch this one before? No. Okay. Yeah. Let me reduce this out. Okay. So what do you think, William? What do you think about that video clips compared with the Buddha I say here? So we pick up a particle of dust and go to limited compass and just drop one in, and that's the lifespan, or how I mean how long the Buddha has passed and so forth. What do you think? Oh, the mic, please. Yeah.
It seems to me that the reason for this analogy is to impress upon us that time is time is no hindrance to the Buddha's knowledge. That this amount of time that is immeasurable, really, even if we consider this scenario that is very hard to imagine, how much dust would be created by pulverizing all those other world systems. It's kind of unimaginable. And even that, the Buddha emphasizes that even if that was done, the number of dust specks would still be nothing compared to the number of kalpas that have passed. So I think it's just really driving home the point that time is no obstruction to the knowledge of the Buddha. It's not like, the further back the Buddha looks, the more difficult it is for the Buddha to see. It seems that the Buddha's vision is completely unobstructed.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, thầy giáo pháp.
Yeah, no problem. So to the Buddhism, time and space only exist for the duality mind. So with the duality, we do have time and space. But for the Buddha wisdom, that means it's a pure mind, right? It's beyond duality. So that means the Buddha wisdom, even though for the time and space, the time it took that many kalpas, like since the Buddha extinction to the Buddha wisdom, they know it. It's just like he see it today on his hand. So the ultimate wisdom from the Buddha, see all. There is no obstruction from the time and space. Hello?
Nguyện hoặc là to compare with what we just say, we just read here. Thăng Nguyện.
Yes, thưa thầy. When I read this, and also from the video that you share, I just relate to practice in my own practice and my own life. At the moment, in the company where I work, they are talking about having a chip with only 4 nanometers. So it's really, really small. Then lately, especially lately in the last few months, I realized that if I did not practice meditation, I could not able to handle a lot of difficulties in my own life. So I do think that as a human being, I was born in a certain family. I do have a heritage from a certain way of thinking, some pattern on my brain to react to a certain circumstance. But most of the information in this brain is already the information how to react, how to respond is already influenced by the DNA that I have from this family that I reincarnate to. If I did not practice the Dharma, I do think that I could not be able to have what I have now here. So I do think that at a certain point, the wisdom that I have now, I learn now, is most of the time from the Buddha wisdom. because only everything that I heritage from my own family, I would not handle the life that I have now here. So when I read this part, for me, the meditations, the Vipassana meditation technique, it's really a tool to purify my own mind, so that I can charge more energy and wisdom from the Buddha, from the universe. So when I daily life, I work at work. I handle with a lot of colleagues. They all also have brilliant, very smart mind people. However, it's really hard to I used to have to handle in very tough situation. I do think that without the wisdom of the Buddha, I'm not able to handle it. And how I can have this because I do meditation. So it's like the energy and the wisdom of the Buddha is always there and it's everywhere. And it is up to us how we practice the Dharma to receive this energy and to understand this wisdom. This is what I understand today.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Welcome, Mr. Thân Từ. Yeah, we just discussed about this first part of the next chapter. How the Buddha talk about the Buddha is the past, that's uncountable compass. Right, okay, let's move on. So how you doing, Miss Thân Từ?
I'm doing okay. Thank you, Pei. Yes, thank you for letting me join. I dropped off my son and I'm able to join, so I wanted to make sure I joined the class.
So he went back to school?
Yes, Pei, he is on his way back to school.
Thank you. All right, let's just move on then. Yeah, William, can you read English, please? Sorry, this is... Yeah, the mic, please, William.
The Buddha announced to the monks, the Buddha, great universal wisdom, excellence, had a lifespan of 540,000 million nayutas of kalpas. This Buddha at first sat in the place of practice, and having smashed the armies of the devil, was on the point of attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. But the doctrines of the Buddhas did not appear before him. This state continued for 1 small kalpa, and so on for 10 small kalpas. The Buddha, sitting with legs crossed, body and mind unmoving, but the doctrines of the Buddhas still did not appear before him. At that time, the heavenly beings of the Triastrimsha heaven had earlier spread a lion seat measuring 1 yohana in height underneath a Bodhi tree for the Buddha, intending that the Buddha should sit on this when he attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. As soon as the Buddha took his seat there, the Brahma kings caused a multitude of heavenly flowers to rain down, covering the ground for 100 yohanas around. From time to time, a fragrant wind would come and blow the flowers away, whereupon new ones would rain down. This continued without interruption for the space of 10 small kalpas as an offering to the Buddha. Up until the time he entered extinction, such flowers constantly rained down. The 4 heavenly kings, as their offering to the Buddha, constantly beat on heavenly drums, while the other heavenly beings played heavenly musical instruments, all for 10 small kalpas. until the Buddha entered extinction. Such was the state of affairs. This confuses me a little bit because, I find myself confused because it says that the Buddha was on the point of attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, but the Buddha's doctrines didn't appear. And so the Buddha continued to sit for 10 small kalpas. But still the doctrines did not appear before him. And the heavenly beings, they're raining down these offerings of flowers and playing the drum and saying that, and laid out this very tall seat, 1 yohana high, a lion seat for the Buddha to sit on when he attained enlightenment. But it never says the Buddha attained, that the doctrines then appeared to him. It says that he did go and sit on the seat. I think, it said he sat on the seat, which implies the doctrines appeared. But then it talks about his extinction, that these flowers rained down and then this music was played for 10 small kalpas until his extinction. And at the beginning, it said he lived for like so many kalpas. I mean, nayutas of kalpas is like a lot of kalpas. But here, it late in this later part, it seems to say that from the time once he smashed the armies of the devil to when he entered extinction, it sounds like, depending on how you read it, either 10 or 20 kalpas passed. So I'm confused by this.
Okay. So what's the confusion? Is that because he attained the Buddhahood already, but his Dhamma doesn't appear? That's what confused you?
Well, it says that he had a lifespan of 10,000 million nayutas of kalpas. And then it says that after he sat on the lion seat, that the heavenly beings continued to make offerings until his extinction, which was 10 small kalpas later. So did he live the majority of those kalpas not having attained Buddhahood and then stayed seated for the remainder of his time? And also, that's one thing that confuses me. The other is, it said he was sitting and the Buddha Dharma, the doctrines did not appear to him. But that the seat that was given to him by the gods, that he would sit on it once he attained the complete enlightenment. And so he did go and sit on it. So that seems to imply that, well, then the doctrines did appear to him. So those are my two confusions. So the doctrines did then appear to him is one question. And then once they appeared, he sat on the lion seat for 10 kalpas before extinction. That seems to not, like earlier it said he lived for the nayutas of kalpas.
Hey, Yopap, you want to respond to this?
I think it's the bottom. It will explain more, because right now I think if we keep continue on reading, it will tell you more information. Instead of right here, you will not have the full picture.
Okay. Yeah, Miss Thân Tử, would you read, please?
Yes, prior to that, I think if you go, as Thầy Giáo Pháp said, I think there is a footnote on number 76, and there's an explanation, and perhaps that would help. Above that. So I was just looking at that. Yes, right there, in 76, and maybe that kind of would give us a little bit of an explanation before we move on. And it just says here that, from my understanding, at a certain point, we think we're okay, we think we're ready. However, and then it seems like you drop your guard. but then still nothing turns out the way we expect it. And then there's a sentence here that says, one's goal is not that easy to reach as he or she may think. We must continue to strive to attain Buddhahood. So based on the passage that William read and this explanation, it seems to me that perhaps the Buddha, that the previous Buddha, thought he was right there, think that he was ready, but what's going on? How come he didn't attain Buddhahood? And could it be that he dropped his guard and thought the time had come, but it had not come yet? So this little footnote says we need to continue to strive and not drop our defenses and not continue to cultivate and to practice towards the Dharma path.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's finish these two paragraphs, please.
Okay. Now, monks, the Buddha, great universal wisdom, excellence, passed 10 small kalpas before him, and he was able to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Before the Buddha left the householder's life, he had 16 sons, the first of whom was named Wisdom Accumulated. These sons each had various kinds of rare objects and toys of one kind or another, but when they heard that their father had attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, they all threw aside their rare objects and went to where the Buddha was. Their mothers, weeping, followed after them. Their grandfather was a wheel-turning sage king, along with 100 chief ministers, as well as 100,000, 10,000 millions of his subjects, all together surrounded the sons and followed to the place of practice, all wishing to draw close to the great universal wisdom excellence thus come one, to offer alms, pay honor, venerate, and praise him. When they arrived, they touched their heads to the ground and bowed before his feet. When they had finished circling the Buddha, they pressed their palms together with a single mind, gazed up in reference at the world honored one, and recited these verses of praise, saying,
It's okay, you can stop. So you see the connection now?
Yeah.
So it seemed like he needed to continue additional time. Is that the point of this continued passage, Thay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so upon that, he needed to continue for additional time. And then after which, then his sons and others went to, once he attained enlightenment or Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, and he was not to be returned back into the samsara cycle, then when he reached Buddhahood, then his sons paid reference and honored him. And then other people that are his subjects also honored and venerate and praised him as well.
So may have some more information down there, right? How about you, William? Do you see connection now?
Yeah, acknowledging that, he was able to attain Thanutara Samyak Sambodhi after the 10 small kalpas. I still wonder about entering extinction. It sounded like after he attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, the gods made offerings for 10 small kalpas, and then he entered extinction. So they haven't circled, it hasn't been addressed yet, but maybe if we read further,
Yeah.
it'll go over that too.
Yeah. And one aspect of the Lotus Sutra here we need to remember is that we need to understand the core principle. So don't be concerned much about the wording, about how long the lifespan, the Buddha words, and so forth. Yeah. Okay, let's move on so that we can understand the other part. So we have 16 son, right? He has 16 son before he left the householders, right? And mm, they reject every luxury or toys, entertainments to follow him. Yeah, yeah, thầy giáo pháp, please.
Okay. No, no problem. The word honor one of great authority and virtue in order to save living beings spent immeasurable millions of years and at last succeed in becoming a Buddha. All your vows have now been fulfilled. It is well no fortune could be greater. The word honor one is very rarely met with. Having taken his seat, 10 small paths, his body and his hand and feet rest in stillness, never moving, his mind constantly calm and places, never in turmoil or disorder. In the end, he attained eternal tranquility and extinction, resting in the law of no outflow. Now, as we observe the word honor one in the tranquility, having completed the Buddha way, we gain excellent benefit and praise and congratulate him with great joy. Um, so, but before I explain this one right here, I think the first one, William, when you read it, it's a little bit confusion. But when you read, when we come down to the second one, and we saw that it's very clearly that means after 10 small kappa, he be able to attend the Buddhahood, and that is where the Buddha Dhamma appear. So the first part is very confused. But the second one and this one is very clear. So, and in here it said that during the 10 kapat, his body and hand, feet in stillness and unmoved. That means it's not moving, and his mind always calm, right? And he attended eternal tranquil that and extinction resting. That means he attended Buddhahood, and now that they are phrase for him. So this is what, and this is the beginning of the Buddhahood that he's about to teach us the Dhamma to the disciple.
Okay, let us stop here. I like to have some quick question. What do you think the Buddha sat in stillness for that long periods of times? Is that believable? What do you think, William? The mic, please.
Like we talked about, about the 20 minutes ago, that time to the Buddha is different. That time is not an obstruction. So I think that perhaps like in a moment where we've all probably experienced this, where something is about to happen, like maybe we're about to trip or we're going to drop something, where we feel time like expand, where a moment that normally would go by very fast, it's like it goes very slow. So it's as if it was a longer period of time. So that makes sense to me, that the state of consciousness that the Buddha was in was one where maybe the people watching the Buddha in that state, to them, not much time passed. But to the Buddha, it was as if that much time had passed because of the consciousness, the state of the Buddha.
I think we discussed about time, right, with the video clips before, right? How about Miss Thung Tu? What do you think? Is that possible or no? Here, let me get back before you respond. So our master, Xuan Hua, he entered Samadhi sometime for a month. And our grandmaster, he didn't notice the times when he entered Samadhi or concentration, where he sat inside his hut, surrounding him with the snow, and so he just boiled the potatoes And when he got out of that samadhi, his potatoes become uh, mold. There's all kind of molds that uh, that on the top of his cooked potatoes. So that's time. That's how he get the samadhi. Now, back to the other story too. There's some master in the past they could sit for several uh, centuries, not decades. And now track back one more. Venerable Mahakrishna, he's still in samadhi now, still now, to wait for the next Buddha, the Maitreya Bodhisattva that will appear on earth to become a next Buddha. So, um, how about Mr. Hunter? What do you think about those stories and those skill of the Buddha's Bodhisattva, Great Master, and so forth? And is it possible for us to understand that type of lifespan or concentration? What do you think?
Well, I don't think for me it's possible, but I know that there are actually if people are able to sit in meditation and sit in samadhi for just the average human being. And Tung Nguyen, I know you've gone through meditation. You know, the most that I can meditate is maybe half an hour, but I'm such a novice. And there are other people who are, you know, much more fluent in their practice. And in this generation, they can sit for a week. And that's, you know, a regular human being. Now, these Buddhas, um, while they're sitting samadhi, they have reached a certain point of wisdom, and they cultivated a certain practice. So I think their focus and their concentration is so fine and pinpointed that I don't question their ability. Now, if the hard part is, if you were to compare that to the lifespan or the longevity of the average person in this day and age, then that would be difficult to conceptualize, because our lifespan, you know, the oldest living person today is 100 and I don't know 14 or 111, something like that. But this occurred back or at that time, and as you say, you know, the Buddha Maitreya is still sitting in samadhi, but he started back however long ago, and his cultivation of his wisdom and his practice is such that it um and it's gone beyond the concept that we grasp today, and time is a concept that we formulate on our own. So it's not up to me to question the practice of those who have gone before me. One is because I do not understand the details at which it took to reach that certain point. So if this is something that a person or a Buddha has mastered, in my humble understanding, I couldn't even conceptualize. For me to even hear it 1, 2, or 3 times, it's still not sufficient for me to be able to conceptualize. I don't grasp the time scale. I don't grasp, I'm not able to grasp the time reference. I'm not able to grasp the size. I mean, when we talk about nayutas, I can't even conceptualize that, you know, that time, or kalpas, I can't even conceptualize, you know, that kind of dimension. So there's so many things that I don't understand. So it's not possible or proper for me to cast doubt on the accomplishments or the cultivation or the achievements of the Buddhas that have reached a certain point. So is it possible? I will have to respectfully say yes. But mostly it's because I don't know enough to say no. And that's the only way that I can put that into terms. Is it possible that I would have to say yes? But if I were to have to do it myself, I wouldn't even know the steps that can lead up to it. But I'm sure it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort and concentration and achievement in wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, let me make a correction. That's Mahasakhipa. He's one of the Buddha disciple. So he's still in samadhi, concentration, uh, and wait for the next Buddha, Maitreya Buddhas, to appear on this earth so that he could pass the bowl and the ropes of Shakti Buddhas. Yeah. So Thang Thieng, what do you think when you came here to meditate? I mean, that like last winter, right? For 1 week of meditation. So let's say after sitting for 45 minutes, is it quick for you or too long for you? What do you think?
Yeah, most definitely. At first, when I came there on the first day, it was too long for me, and I was not be able to concentrate on my breathing. I get distracted a little bit, and I was sometimes I look up the clock and see is it time to get up yet. I keep looking at the clock, and I yeah and after a day later or two, and I try my best to practice hard and concentrate. And you gave me the book that I read over, and I learned about something about you need to what's it called, to keep your mind or keep your to anchor your mind to a certain point. So this is something that I never learned before. So I took your and I learned about that technique. And so the next day I came back to sit down and meditate, and and I try to anchor my mind to my stomach or to my chest. I was be able to to settle my mind and not to have any thought arises. If there's a thought, I need to be mindful that the thought is not me, not myself, not I. It's just a phenomenon. So I just keep practicing doing that until I find that I take my joy into sitting down and meditate, and I keep my mind so I keep anchor my mind, concentrate on the breathing. So I always be able to concentrate, and I don't keep my eyes on the clock and see is it time to wake up. I feel like that I want to keep going, and don't stop there. Uh, that's how I feel. How it is. Yeah.
Ms. Thong Nguyen, so when you sit, let's say, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, it feels short for you, right?
Yes, it depends on. Yeah, sometimes I sit in the meditation center, and when I stood up, it was for me only 5 minutes, but it was like 4 or 5 hours ago. So people go out, people go in, people go out and in again every 1 hour. I did not recognize that. but sometimes 10 minutes meditation it took so long. Also about the timing is for it is for me. For example, now I work, and if we if I think about Buddha wisdom is the now we have the technology that a lot of our knowledge of human is put on data and uh, transfer in the iCloud, so in somewhere in on space. So I now, for example, the company where I work now, sometimes the network in Eindhoven, so the headquarter in the Netherlands, was just down, but we are able to work normally using a network in Wilton or in Taiwan. So everyone communicating using a technology that in Wilton in America and another one in Taiwan, and we still work normally, communicate from home. I think in 20 years ago, if people talking about this, nobody could not believe that that is able, because I think 20 years ago we think to have a job in the US, we have to fly to US. We have to learn, we have to take communication, we have to take some work, and then we do physically. But now everything is connected so easily. So only this, for us in human being timeline, for me in 20 years, I see it's incredible thing happen. So even though with the book with the wisdom from the Buddha, and also the knowledge and all the power that the Buddha can do, and all the countless Buddhas before us and after us, it's reasonable that we could not understand it today. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, so let me put this way. The reason why I put that question, because when we really concentrated, when we really focus on doing something, we would not pay much attention about the times. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, even sometimes it's a day. If we really in tune with that type of concentration, so that's why it's just normal for me to hear the story that like my master, grandmaster, or even Venpo Makashipa entered Samadhi for 1,000 years. This is, of course, it's incredible for us that we could not have that skill, but it's understandable for us because we know um, that's reasonable. Yeah. So for them, because they feel focus on their mind, so they don't pay attention much about the times. But for us, we wait for the times. So again, time dimensions for human realm is different from the time dimension of the celestial beings, even the great Bodhisattva or Arhat or Buddhas. So what I mean. So okay. Since we have only 2 more minutes to go, so William, you want to have anything to add about this timing? What do you think? Yeah, no. The mic, please. Yeah.
Every time today, the mic. Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. That it makes sense, of course, from my perspective and my experience. There's, it's like it's hard to fathom, but it's even acknowledged within the sutra. Kind of like some of the intentions of some of the time periods seem to be to evoke that sense of like, wow, I can't even understand that. I do have, I mean, it's like, it's more of a curiosity question. It's not really important to the core of the sutra, but because it comes to my mind as we're doing it and there's an opportunity to ask it, I'll ask it, but it doesn't really matter. I thought between kalpas that the whole world was destroyed. I thought everywhere except the a very particular, like even the heavens would become destroyed in between kalpas, or it's some sort of interval. It would be destroyed all the way up to like the Vajra seat of the Buddha or something like that. Is that not the case?
That's the case. That's the case. So according to the Buddhist cosmology, you can study, you can learn more about that. Uh, so in universe, we go through the four processes of formation, um, duration, duration of formation. The second one is the stabilities, stabilization. That means things sell down. Right. The next one, the third is decaying, and the last one is disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing appear, second one the things sell down, third things get decaying, the last one disappear. So you follow me? So everything is follow this kind of process in general. So in the Sun Sutra, the Buddha mentioned that yes, in especially in one Sumeru, this before any kind of destruction, they have some kind of mm, what do you call uh, the wind disaster and the fire disaster and so forth that happened. It may blow out the planets and so forth, or something. I mean that when it's time for the fire disaster, it burns some stay up realm up to the stay up the heaven realms too. So later on we can discuss about that. It's be complicated. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So let me since time is up, but let me ask your opinions. Since next week we will have time changing, right? Oh, the week after next week, next Saturday we still do the same times, but by March the 14th we have time changing. So since Miss Tang Nguyen, she live in Netherlands, so 6 hours from us, and she attend this class. Plus, she need to wake up early in the morning to teach our Vietnamese children or the youth early in the morning. So she have only 2 hours and a half to sleep. So could we study early so that she have more time to sleep? Let's say instead of our times, William, our time is five o'clock, right? So can we